Jim. No, it's Jeff North. Yes.
terrible. I got in a fight with a table saw last week. Stitches.
Jim is showing.
Stitches, but
Yeah.
not
Didn't lose anything.
We did. I thought we were gonna wait. I just told Jim we'd wait for him, but I guess we don't have to. He does want to broach. Well, this is from last month. He wants to broach something. Jim does. Oh, and I need to get. Do I have enough packets for all? Jim had an issue with something, and he's gonna on last month's the appropriate voting. Sorry, I thought I gave you. It's here on appropriate voting. So does everyone have enough packets? You have yours. Okay, Jim. Perfect.
Jim is coming.
Yes, he says he was at the Rotary, but he can also address it at the end of the meeting. He said he was going to address it during new business.
That's fine.
Even though this
But you're right, Ken. You can get.
this is long.
Yeah. Because we're going to get the,
You know what? Hours? I don't
what they've
know.
got.
Oh, this is their list of
Oh, that's great.
Do you have? Yeah. Do you? Is that an extra? No.
Yeah, I had given it, I thought that this was an extra.
Oh, I don't write. Well, I can make copies. Does anyone else need the agenda? Do you? You're second. There's only 2 cases. There's Jim. So. Yeah, you're second. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know this was.
We got a low chair over here. Oh, that's fine.
Okay, I guess we're ready to rock and roll here. So, this is the Town of Newport Planning Board, September 12th, 2023 at 6:10 p.m. And I'll start with a roll call on my right.
Jim Burrows?
Scott Stent. Ken Merrill.
Mike Lucio.
David Burnham, Chair. Agenda review, I think we can do this straightforward.
Yep.
Continued business. Nothing. And
So, yes, Mr. Chairman, from the last meeting, there was a procedural question regarding the vote that we took at the last meeting. So it asked that we just reaffirm the vote. We'll probably do that after we go through the minutes. From the last case, there's a subdivision.
oh, not
So-
enough votes?
There was, I abstained as a relative of an abutter, so really it should be 4-0-1 vote tonight to reaffirm that.
It was 3 in the affirmative, 1 abstained, and
That makes it correct.
On a
that's
six-person
what
board.
I thought. I thought it was the majority.
If
Yeah.
you have a 4-member, because if 3 vote yes, 1 votes
On
no.
a 5-person board, yes. On a 6-person board, no. Need a majority on a 6-person board.
Out of the 6 people, you need the
Out of
majority.
the quorum. Oh, out of the entire?
Because it's a 6-person board, not a 5-person board.
Okay.
So,
Just, I want to just, no issues with the vote that was taken out, no issues with the case at all. I just want to reaffirm it to, just cement it that,
we didn't have the majority vote for not who was in attendance. We didn't have the majority vote for the board itself.
Okay.
And actually, this is a 7-member board.
Yeah.
But it's still the 4. That's the majority for 6 or for 7.
Right. Okay. Well, we can do that when we could, after the minutes, or
thank you.
before the minutes. Oh. Okay, we'll go into the new business, and our first case is 2023 SPFP 05. MRT Holdings owner requests a final review to approve the site plan for a new commercial structure, property identified as map 234, lot 002, located at 490 John Stark Highway in the Kellyville zoning district.
You should have a larger set of plans too, I believe, in your file. Or in front of you.
Right here.
Yes. Oh, there you go. And there isn't everyone. Scott, you might have to share with, like, yeah.
For those people that are not familiar with MRT Holdings, it's the old stone vault building in Kellyville as you go around the corner on the left-hand side headed towards Claremont. Do I have a motion to accept as complete?
I'll make a motion that we accept 2023-SPFP-05 as complete.
Second that.
We have a second by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
George,
And who is representing?
I'm Mallory Tafer, this is my husband Jeremy. We own the property.
Okay. Would you like to come up and do your presentation?
Oh, geez. Okay.
Or you can sit there and speak however you want to do it.
Okay, well, you guys have the map, right? So what we're proposing is, and it sounds like you're fairly familiar with the structure, right? The old stone vault. What we're proposing is on the lower side, an addition of a 40 by 48 addition to the garage. On that lower side.
Let me, I'd rather have you come up and show us what's going on, because there, people out in TV land will not know what we're talking about. So I will put, you got the big copy.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, existing building, big rectangular building on the lower side is where we're proposing the 40 by 48 addition. It does have, so the building does have an access underneath. There's already like a garage underneath. So this will just be extending that and widening it a bit. I believe we meet all the setbacks and everything. I don't know, do you have questions for me or anything else I can?
But they have the location of it on that survey,
Yeah.
and it doesn't violate any setbacks.
Yeah,
As far as drainage goes, it's all concrete there anyway, so it's not gonna change the drainage or the runoff at all.
Yep. It's that dotted line, the proposed, garage.
How many of these exterior lights are you putting out there? Couple?
Yeah.
Probably just two. There's going to be a pass door on actually the away roads from the roadside. There's really nothing on the roadside. And then obviously the two, garage doors on the opening end. So I'd imagine maybe one on that end and one facing the woods.
Okay. No, and it's the right type fixture, which is good to see.
Yeah, nothing will be.
Yeah, nothing up. Like
Shining out there and
yeah.
blinding people, so it's good.
If anything, it'll be on the roadside, more going away from the road, shining the
Christine, was there any other staff comments?
Oh, actually, I apologize, I meant to mention this. The police commented on this, and fire, Public Works, it's on a state road, so no comment there, and the police and the fire both had no issues. And the building inspector, I believe, I forwarded him, I think he had some comments, but I believe I satisfied those. So there were no concerns from the pertinent departments. And there's no hookup to water or sewer, which I don't even believe it goes out there regardless.
Any other questions from the board before I open it to the public? I'll open it to the public for any comments for or against. Seeing no one, we'll come back to the board. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we accept 2023-SPFD-05 as submitted.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to sign these tonight, or?
Yeah, you can sign them. They're not going, yeah, you should sign them. They'll stay in our files. You guys will get the notice of decision in the mail, but you can,
Sign out.
if you haven't already given me the permit, you could
Yeah, I think
submit permits.
Alan will
touch base tomorrow, yeah.
Yep.
I can take this, did you sign both? And the second one, this is for the second case, when you get that.
You need to sign all three.
Yeah, why don't you sign yeah, I'll take all three signed. And then they could have one for their files too. We need two.
Ken will be signing the Mylar when it comes in.
I don't think there'll be any Mylar for this.
No Mylar?
No,
We
no
have three
Mylar,
copies,
it's,
so you're-
yeah. These are
Okay,
just,
so there's
it doesn't
no
have to go to
changes.
Sullivan County, yeah. I doubt, it's just internal, but these are,
Okay. Very good. Our next case is 2023 LLA 02, Rebecca Nelson, owner, requests a final review for a lot line adjustment, property identified as map 236, 223, lot 015003, located on McDonough Road in the rural and rural commercial zoning district.
there's larger plans too. I think Dave has 3 sets of them, although everyone else had the 11 by 17. But there are large.
You guys take one over there. Yeah. That's the same size you got now. You don't need those guys. Okay. I didn't see a review on the completeness of it.
Alright. Let me check it. Well, this is just long.
I don't think there is anything other than the
No, I'm good.
someone like to make a motion to accept as complete.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to accept 2023-LLA-02 as complete.
Second that.
Jim Burrow, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Any abstentions? Who's presenting?
Should I wait for Christina?
Oh, you can.
If you want to go ahead and get set up.
Yeah, yes. The floor is yours, and when she gets back, you can start. And you are Eric?
Yeah, so I'm Eric Peabody from Green Top Land Surveying, here tonight representing Becky Nelson. We're seeking approval for a lot line adjustment at Beaver Pond Farm. Becky owns both map 236 lot 15 and map 223 lot 3. Lot 15 is 144 acres currently. The proposal is to shift 116.38 acres, shown as parcel A, from Lot 15 to Lot 3, which will leave Lot 15 with 27.6 acres, and Lot 3 will be increased to 177.27 acres.
So you take it just
Yeah,
west of the little brook or drainage or whatever it is that is. Is that it?
this is a logging road. Yeah, I mean the inset shows it better because you can see Lot 50 in its entirety. So the current line is here, so this will go away, and then so this 116 acres will go to Lot 3, and then this will be the new line between Lot 15 and this whole thing is Lot 3.
I can see it on my phone. Oh,
15
including this one.
Yeah, 15 will go all the way to
All the way back.
currently.
Cut this piece off.
That's the
Has
one
its
being
own lot.
cut.
Yep.
And then add that to that.
Yep.
Okay.
If I can mention, the purpose of this will be to put all of the land under conservation will be in two lots, one prospect on, each prospect on a road. And that will leave the land that is not conserved, the 27.4 acres is not under conservation, so it'll just clean it up. It'll put all the conservation land in one lot.
The 27-acre lots where the farm stand is, which is not in conserved.
Can you still have the farm stand on the conservation?
It is not, that 27.43 acres is not under conservation. The rest of it is, the woodland beyond, up to Green Mountain Road.
Okay.
So there's something we probably should have done when we did the conservation easement, but there were a lot of balls in the air at the time.
It'll just clean it up so it's in a tidier package for us.
Gotcha.
There's no new lots created. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts, but no,
Yeah.
same number.
And basically this one becomes that one.
Yeah. Very good. Any questions?
I'd get much more straightforward than that.
Any questions or comments from the public? Anyone against?
This is your chance to yell at your new neighbors.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, seeing none, come back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion, we accept 2023-LLA-02 as presented.
Is that a second?
Second.
Mike,
Switch it up.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
This one we will need a Mylar for.
Yeah. So we can make this sign.
You're gonna produce a Mylar.
I brought it when we
You have it?
Oh my gosh, hold on. Oh my
Jump
gosh.
out. I saw it jump out there.
I know it jumped on me. It's never been there before.
So that it always comes out with the title block. So it's quick reference. Take notes on that?
I might actually have to.
Oh, we can start signing the road.
My life.
Okay.
You want hard copies too?
I will need copies of those for our files, so yes. And then are there, if there aren't, let me go get
Nothing in
the
here.
Sharpie.
I got one.
You got one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ooh,
Here's a great
that
shot.
was a little big.
Here's this one might be better. Is that one better?
The point,
Yes,
yeah, the point on that was real solid.
huge. There's two.
Right with you, Mike.
Oh, man.
Just Mike. You sign that?
Yep. Nope. Thank you.
Is the Mylar finished or who else needs to sign? It looks like it's done.
This one,
And dated.
you got this one?
You didn't give me a check, did you, with this? So, I'm questioning.
Christine.
Excellent.
Christine,
Here's my copies, thank you. So there you go.
Just gonna ask, do you take that to the county to be?
Either way, I can, and you can leave it here. But yes, and then just bring back a check.
Yeah.
But absolutely, you're free will with their signatures. And if you have any issues, obviously call me.
Okay.
But that should be all good.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It was a nice meeting.
Can I back you down?
Stop by.
Absolutely.
Our next order of business is to clear up the vote from last meeting. And you were sitting chair, right?
Correct.
So why don't you,
So it was, if you'd like me to, I can bring it up again and we can just motion, second it, and vote it again.
okay. Do you have the case?
I got it right here.
Oh.
No,
August 3rd.
Case number 2023 SDFP 05, Roy and Melinda Reed owners,
Oh, there we go.
requesting a final review and minor subdivision of property identified as map 111, lot 48, located at 37 Park Street in the professional BP zoning district.
who was here last month? Ray?
So present was myself, Ray Kibbe, Tobin Bernard, Mike Luccio.
So this would be, to get 4, you have to do it for, if we're gonna do it ceremonially, you're voting for the vote that everyone approved that month to maybe just double check ourselves
Just reaffirming,
that we're making sure that, no, right, that there isn't tying up administratively, I believe. Unless someone's concerned, I can grab the whole file, or you can read the case in the minutes.
I thought the minutes explained it very well, and it was, like I said, a very straightforward, simple case, so.
Let me read into, you can just take this. I'm going to read it just for the people that are watching. This is case 2023 SDFP 05. Roy and Melinda Reed, owners, request a final review for a minor subdivision property identified as map 111 lot 048 located at 37 Park Street in the professional business zoning district. This case was opened by acting chairman Burrows, and Mr. Burrows recused himself from voting during the case. because of a family member that was noticed a butter. Mr. Kibbe made a motion to accept the application as complete. It was seconded by Mr. Lucio, and because Jim Burrows abstained, the motion had passed at 3-0-1, and that does not give us a complete majority. So we're going to, I'll read the rest of this into it, and we are going to take a vote tonight so that we have a majority. Acting Chairman Burrows addressed Mr. Dombrowski and asked him to present the case. Mr. Dombrowski explained the applicant wanted to make a minor subdivision of 2 lots. Using a site plan, he explained the 2 zones affected were general residential and professional business. The setbacks proposed were greater than is required in the zoning district. The owners would like to make their property entirely residential. He gave a further general explanation of the site plan for board members. Acting Chairman Burrows asked for questions from the board. Mr. Kibbe asked if it was the applicant's decision to decide what zone the subdivided land would be in, or the town's. Mr. Dombrowski read aloud from the Newport Zoning Ordinance Regulations, page 5, section 204. Lots in 2 zoning districts. If a zoning district divides a lot in single or joint ownership at the time of passage of the ordinance establishing such boundary line, the regulations for either district may, at the option of the owner, extend to the entire lot, but in no case shall permitted uses be extended more than 100 feet from the zoning district boundary. The proposal fit the zoning ordinance regulation. Mr. Dombrowski said the key words in the ordinance were at the option of the owner. Mr. Kibbe thanked him for the clarification. There were no further questions from the board or of the public. Acting Chairman Burrows asked the pleasure of the board. Mr. Kibbe made a motion to accept case 2023 SDFP 05 as presented. It was seconded by Mr. Menard. The motion passed by roll call vote 3-0-1, with Mr. Burrows abstaining. Now we will have a vote. Is there any questions? I will open it to the public. Are there anybody here that would like to speak for or against? Yes.
Maura Stetson, just for clarification, it's not an error in the minutes as they were written. It is a procedural error in that there was not a quorum of the board voting yes.
Correct.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Do we re-motion to vote to accept as presented? With the current board that sits here?
Yes.
So,
We may have to have the case filed to be re-signed.
It's not a bad idea. I don't know who says, so let me,
so I will make a motion that we accept case 2023-SDFP-05 as presented.
And do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mike. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes. Still.
Still, one abstention will be Jim Burrows, for the same reason that he has family members that were notified of the
And then this group
work.
sign
Okay. Now,
Thank you, Jim. I think that clears it up and just makes it more airtight than it was before. Not that it was wrong in any way other than the fact that we were short one person.
we need to have a motion to accept as complete, because that motion also was in disarray because of the
for the same reason.
3-1 yes. Which is why she went to get the paperwork.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
here's the motion to accept as complete, which you're right, they didn't sign it, so let me go
Okay.
print
So I'll make a motion to accept 2023-SDFP-05 as complete.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept as complete. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Yes.
Jim Burrows? The motion passes 4-0-1. Were there any plans to sign?
She's getting whatever needs
Oh.
to be signed. So the board members signed the Mylar and 3 copies, so she's got to take those out. The last paragraph.
Yep.
This will teach you to retire, David, take a night off.
I don't know what happened. I just totally forgot it. I had all my stuff ready to go, and for some reason I just was off doing something. I came back in, and it was like 8 o'clock, and I said, "Uh-oh."
Not that the case ever would have been, a problem ever, but
No.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that
Yes.
once it was identified, that we correct it as best we can.
Proper. So this is July 20.
So while we're waiting for the paperwork to be signed, we can go on to the minutes
Oh, yeah,
for July. For July 11th, 2023.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of July 11, 2023 as presented.
Second.
I have a second by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
The ayes have it.
Did you abstain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was there anyone else that was not here?
You can,
You still vote on it.
you can still vote on them as,
Okay.
that doesn't matter.
As long as you understand the minutes,
Right.
you can still vote. So,
No, all right.
I mean, if you absolutely weren't clear on what was going on, this isn't like a case,
Yeah, we've had that before.
I don't know what you guys did.
But most of the time, it's just typographical, yeah.
Well, if it said something like, Mr. Lucia was here and talked about this, and you say, wait a minute, I wasn't here, that's what you want to correct.
And this is the,
Did you have the plans for that?
yeah, this goes with the Nelsons.
That's nonsense. Did you have the plans for that last one? Because they were signed at the meeting, so we gotta get more signatures.
Oh, jeez. Didn't I bring the whole file? Oh, I did. I brought the whole
We
file.
just gotta add more signatures too.
Oh, sure. Okay, now this is here. That I have. Okay, let's see what we have.
Actually,
One, two, next one. You signed it.
Whoever wasn't here, just, add some.
Yeah.
Although you have the 4 signatures. Did you sign it? I don't know.
I would say
Do
if
you,
we-
do it again because you
Just
re-voted.
sign it, Mike.
Yeah, just sign it.
I'm on here.
You're on here already. so
Oh,
yeah,
right.
David.
Whoever hasn't signed. Thank you. I'm going to get that, yes, into their files. This goes, these 2 things go here. Okay, and then that'll go in.
So the Mylar with it?
The Mylar got sent,
Okay.
and it does have 4 signatures.
Oh, okay, so,
I mean, you really actually only need 1 on Mylar. But believing that we did it correctly, I think we're fine with that.
That's why they reaffirm it, just to
Right, there's not gonna come back.
double cross,
all right,
double
so
dot.
there's that.
Okay, so that's theirs too. this was asked about last week, and,
We're not into this yet.
oh, sorry, oh, I apologize, go ahead.
And our next order of business is the August. Are there any errors, omissions, typographical? I didn't see any. One, 2, 3.
Make a motion to accept?
Second?
We have a motion by Jim Burrows, second by Ken, to accept. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Ayes have it. That takes care of the minutes for July and August. Now we'll go on to the administration, which is the new vocational building feedback, agricultural building discussion. And this handout that you just gave
That
me.
was, talked about last month, and I sent it to everyone the day after, because I didn't have it during the meeting.
Right, so this was given in response to our questions from the
Yes.
hearing.
Yes, and Ken, you've definitely looked this over, and Ken, you might be able to speak to this more because you've spoken to them about like the scoping of the line and everything.
Right.
It's
So where we sit currently, permits have been issued. The permit was held until the MOA was signed between the town and the school for the property. So that got signed, and then we released the permit based on that. The only condition that remains on the permit is the scoping of the sewer, and they're held from connecting the sewer to the town until that's been verified. And that's on them, and they know that straight up. The other questions in here, the site plan, the permitted plans, the lighting is fine. Item 2 on here, the stormwater maintenance plan was submitted. It's probably, I see Gunther sitting out there as part of the Conservation Commission, so a point of interest for you guys, that plan is the maintenance plan of that retention pond just north of the building. And it is a yearly maintenance program that they have to file with the state, and they have to keep that up, just FYI. So it's an interesting, it's a read,
It's
you know,
here.
keep it weed free,
With a
et
law.
cetera, et cetera. All right. Pretty standard procedure with those kind of infiltration chambers. So 2 and 3 go together with that data that's in there. The sewer we talked about, the rec grant we talked about. They have removed the sign up lighting that was adjacent to the building. And then the street address will be coordinated with the fire department, along with their own, because that's gonna have a standalone fire alarm system, so that'll have its own 911 address. It'll have, so it's going to be
I thought it was
the same address as the school, but it'll be an AB
building.
C,
so not
yeah,
ABC.
by building, so they have a better pointed response.
If there's a right.
If there's ever an
emergency
issue.
or-
So that's the current update for that. Anybody got any questions or
Thank you
anything
for
more?
that.
I've been through that set of plans thoroughly.
Okay. And our next order of business is the binders for master plan. Do you have those?
I do. I have them. They're right in the other. I wasn't going to drag them in. I got them together. I am missing Tobin's and Scott's. I didn't make one for Scott, the new member. So I do have them all here, and I could pass them out. And I figured they could either be taken home or they could be kept here. One thing I did want to mention before we hand those out, although I can hand them out now, is that the survey, the issue with the survey, and a solution, I believe Jim broached last month, Survey Monkey, which I've never used. So I've spoken to Paul about, because I was just going to resend the survey out as is, like I mentioned last week. So I spoke to Paul about having a cover letter that the town has. We no longer have the data of any of the surveys that were submitted. And I still not sure on the wording, but a one-page letter that goes to everyone in the town, just like the survey. And after the explanation, apologizing that we've lost all the data. And if you please be, kind enough, I don't know exactly how the wording is going to be. Actually, you guys should probably approve the wording. That we're going to have a link on the paper to a survey that they can do on the town website if they want to go get it there. And that, I believe, will just be downloaded and they can scan it back and give it to us. I don't think it'll be anything fancier than that. I don't know if the town has the capability. Then we're going to make a note that there's hard copies, access to hard copies of the survey in the town offices and in the town library. And unless you guys could think of another, I guess I could maybe put them in the information booth possibly. But I had those 2 locations. Unless anyone could think of another one to add, I could obviously make lots of hard copies. Then the final way to get it would be a link to SurveyMonkey. And if anyone, whoever has a computer, and most people do, not all for sure, not all feel comfortable using it, but if you were to type in the link, it will take you right to our exact survey, and that you can data in your information. Now, the key to this, which is very helpful because of this significant delay, is if we could get even half of the people to do the SurveyMonkey, potentially, just pretend, it literally probably cut the data entry time down significantly. And then there's maybe the potential of getting more than the 500 responses, potentially because we have SurveyMonkey, maybe, that younger people, or they could do it right on their phone.
Might be well received that way.
So that was my plan and I've never, and SurveyMonkey is actually pretty inexpensive and pretty easy to use. I really didn't realize it because I've never done it. It's a $400 fee a year that obviously the town will pay for, and I've talked to Paul about it after, and it's for a whole year, so in theory we could continue to get in response, not that, but people could respond for a year with these surveys, in theory.
Are you gonna put a notice in like the town flyer paper there? Or?
You know what, that's a great, and I should also put an ad in the paper.
Yeah.
With the should I do it with the link, or will we get other people?
You could
I would go
of
both.
town?
I would go both.
Because I can absolutely do that. And you know what? I've had a hard time trying to come up with the wording, but let me start working on that like tomorrow. And I should forward it to you guys to really approve the wording on the letter, since it's really
It's
you
pretty
don't care, you're fine, get it out.
Yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
cut and dry.
Okay, so we want an ad, so we definitely want an ad in the shopper. I mean in the Newport. Should we put an ad in the shopper? Do people get the shopper here?
No. If you put on that What's Up Newport Facebook page, they'll all get it.
Oh, that's true. I could. I don't run that website, but I could ask.
Well, if you just comment on it, or
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have Facebook. I can try to figure out how to do that. I'm not
I just
Facebook.
can put it up there.
Oh, okay, that'd be great if you want to do it. Absolutely. So
So
the
here's the
ad
link
in
to
the
that.
Newport Times, and maybe an ad in the paper.
You may actually get more than you did paper. So.
Yep.
Good or bad.
Okay, great. So that was my plan, and as long as, and Paul will approve I want someone to at least look at the wording. And so, does everyone agree with that, not resending the 3 pages and a cover letter, but 1 cover letter, and you have these 3 different ways to get it?
Keep it simple.
That works? Okay. And
If it's gonna be expensive to do it the other way,
well, this will be way cheaper with only me having, because I'm still going to use the mass mailing, because it's more difficult than you think to send to every resident. The post office requires it in a certain fashion, and so it will be about 1/4 the cost. And then the big thing is, we'll have instant information once we could start moving forward instantly because of SurveyMonkey.
and maybe it won't get.
And then I could data in entry the less. I'll probably go through SurveyMonkey. Once I see the hard copies, I'll start dataing them into SurveyMonkey. And that's how I'll probably end up doing it.
I'll never do it manually again.
Right. That's actually, I just thought of that. Instead of coming up with spreadsheets, I'll be just pretending I'm filling out 200. let's hope we get a lot of them, hard copy or Survey Monkey. But that's actually, now that I just thought about it, I can data entry them into Survey Monkey.
That would be good.
And then that'll be, I think we might have the information. So let me, do we want to start talking about, I have the binders, and I have them for everyone but Scott here.
You can give me mine, I'm in here more often.
I don't, and you can leave them, I just thought we could have them, you can leave them here, or you can take them with you. But I thought people could, write all over them. And no,
Break the hands.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Like Ray's, I have Owen Jeff Morse, and here's yours. I need to make you a cover letter. I apologize.
Since I'm missing to rewrite this.
Oh, and Scott,
So
here's one. I need to make you an
Yeah, I
entire
got
one,
one right on this
and
one.
you can take it. And yeah.
So last time it was done in 2012.
That was a long time ago.
It's time to
Yeah. It was.
get it up.
Yep.
But it has to be done every 10 years.
10 years.
There are, okay, so CC is gonna start working on theirs. HC is wanting to update theirs. That was kind of a generic, I think the Upper Valley did it for them because there's really no local input. And a big part of the CC, although Gunther maybe could speak to that, is the NRI that should be, by the time, I'm hoping now, January 1, 2005, a perfect mailing for the new master plan. 2025.
What's the NRI?
And natural resource inventory.
Oh, okay.
And our meeting coming up this month, Jeff Littleton of Moosewood Ecological is going to make a presentation regarding NRI. And if anybody from the community would like to go see his presentation, I think we welcome just getting informed, because I'm still learning as a Conservation Commission member, the details of what entails a natural resource inventory. And its importance for the town and a lot of our town leaders to learn its features and the information from that report that eventually will come.
He's very interesting, who they hired. He's a professor at UNH.
I'd have to look that up again.
I forget, right, but
he's very
interesting.
well.
It's
Yes.
real. It's the one of the board meetings you will not fall asleep to if you watch it on TV. And they actually say the NRI, which we don't have one and is supposedly mandated but in RSAs, which is good, it's being done, is actually the bottom line building block. Even before surveys or anything, looking at your land resources as the base, as like the foundation. So,
Do we have a copy of the Newport wetlands delineation at all?
no.
Like it's the general overview?
I can print that off Access GIS, but it's
Yeah.
relatively rudimentary, as we saw with the north. Oh, you didn't see the zoning board, so.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But it's always the baseline to start and say, is there a wetland impact on what we're looking at,
Absolutely.
you know?
So I can print that out for the town. Actually, I'll make a note to start, bringing more data.
That's registered somewhere, isn't it?
It should be.
The wetlands,
Yeah.
what the state is aware of, and they have delineated, yes, a lot of them. And again, if you do either come in or watch it online, he's so interesting that the state's delineations are typically from satellite finding it. So if it's anything lower than, not all, and then other delineations are always from survey. Surveyors have to. There was just an acre found on a piece of land in North Route 10, and I found that kind of significant. The land was only 21 acres, and almost an acre was natural wetlands. I don't know.
Well, it comes in when you're doing the site plan development.
Absolutely.
It's a
Right.
place to start.
So that's probably how they got a lot of them, and then unless it's larger than that.
There's your wetlands.
It is in the old, from Access GIS.
That's a whole, so we should
Page,
get the new
page
one.
31.
Yeah.
This one is from 2012, so it should be pretty close. This is flood
Oh, yeah.
storage.
Put this year's flood map on it.
Yeah, I know. That might
I think the
probably will
wetlands have
change a little
increased
bit.
substantially
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what, if it does look a lot different. I will say in the 10 years, we know there's been a ton of surveyed land in the last 3 years. Lots of surveyed land. So, you know what, it'll be interesting to compare it.
Yeah, this one is a compilation of Sullivan County Soil Survey, National Wetland Inventory from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, 1992. So it really needs
So it needs the
a
new one
lot
inserted.
of,
in
yeah.
Font.
The water features were from 2006 U.S. Geological Survey. So, yeah, I mean, if we just update that,
Yeah, all
that'll be helpful. And then you can at least generally see if somebody wants to do a 50 acres something in this area. You go, well, we already got 4 or 5 places already in there.
Weren't you thinking too of potentially trying to do another open, public, or just, I guess anyone's invited
Yeah, well,
to this?
we wanted to get all the
Oh,
data
right.
Data
in.
first.
So,
Right, then make comments about it, right?
so I think if we at least get a month of that new survey done.
If I can start, right, I'm
If it-
really
you know, I
gonna
mean,
get the.
if we get 50 responses, it's kind of, but I mean, if we get a good number of responses, then
Well, once I get the
we can
sheet
start
too,
having some more public meetings.
I'll just start handing it out to anyone that comes to my window before they even get it in the mail.
Yeah,
I'll just start saying, go on, because I begged for a lot of surveys to be done before, so I'll just keep doing that. And hopefully get a jump right on it, just be passing it out. I will say, I think there are things to consider about zoning too. I think there's gonna be possibly the heritage and conservation, some potential changes in zoning. I know Ken has broached, there's an issue on the north, a property on the north Newport, northern Newport on Route 10, that they did some excavating there, that they didn't get the proper permitting via the state. We were not made aware of the excavating. I was actually told they weren't doing that, but state officials went out.
I saw
Yes.
at least 3 commercial rigs. Different
Absolutely.
companies leaving that site this week already.
I have been told by numerous people that it was being done, but the people who owned it, right. So the state has gone out to the property and has sent a letter. Well, but part of the issue with their excavating is the steep slope that they're cutting into and the potential hazards for that. And we don't have a steep slope. We don't have any steep slope regulations.
But it goes
But
to the gravel
open-
pit.
it go-
Mining,
yeah.
under MIOS, there's
Right.
standards.
right.
So you got OSHA.
There are the
there's
RSA,
MIOS.
right, absolutely, and the state is looking into even just, is sending him a letter that he needs to contact them about why there was excavating, and they also believe the excavating was over 2 acres. Again, I still have not been on the property, I still have not seen any of this.
So if it's a gravel pit, which constitutes a business, then you get into OSHA rule, employee rules, those kind of things. That's where the
Which
sloping.
they stated, right, they also state it's not a gravel pit, because if it was, they have to come to the planning board with an application, right? So I agree, so that is under, but I still do think there should be a steep slope, something in our
Something
zoning
to consider.
potentially, because,
Can we get an example of another place having?
absolutely, let me look up. Do you know of any in Hanover, or they don't
I
have
would
a?
just have to do a search.
Okay, no, I
I'm
will,
sure
I'll
somebody
look at,
does.
I'm sure too,
Yeah.
I'll look at that. I do know that the conservation, and then I do, yes, and there might be some, I know there's housing zoning that we might either want to change or look at, I don't know. The rural section is kind of a free-for-all, it's a huge percentage of the town, and right now, again, the subdivisions, and I think if people catch on how much open land there is, and our subdivision regulations are very weak in the rural, I find kind of odd.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think one of the things in rural that should be changed at the very least is instead of having .923 acres for a lot size, at least change it to 1. You know what I'm saying?
The 40,000.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
That's an
I go
odd
much higher
40,000.
than that.
I think it should be much higher
Acres.
than that too.
42,000.
Yeah.
I mean, some towns have a lot size of rural sections of 5.
Absolutely.
And I think, quite frankly, if it's truly rural, it should be that. But at the very least, make it an even acre. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we could do like Lyme does, and make it 50 acres.
That would be perfect.
I know.
But
I know a lot of towns that in their residential, their strictest areas for new construction, and this has been years, 20 years, 2.5 acres. Now that's news to a lot, anything else, but this is, you're doing rural, you're allowed to have a pig farm. If you have a quarter of an acre, I know the state regulates inhumane thing, but when people have called me and said, are they allowed to have, yep.
well, in the state you have to be, the state laws for the most part on that are 50 feet, your dwelling units for your animals have to be 50 feet from property lines.
Well, we have a 50-foot setback.
And we have a setback already.
Yeah, but
that's,
people are,
that's
right.
the state minimum,
Yeah, I
you know what
know.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you might know more than that. All I know is I just think that it should be at least looked at. It's so tiny, but that's me. That's not the.
Yeah, if we want to do something like that, we got to get it quick to get it to vote, so that's...
Absolutely, I would think now that we're a little better at writing them, or just have a lawyer write it once we come up with what it is. I think we could easily get it in for the May one. Now that I've already done it once. Although
May
we
1st is our deadline.
no,
No,
it would
March.
be more like March 1st for
It's
me
March
just
1st.
getting it
March
on.
before,
But I think if we're thinking, and that we could always do it the following year based on especially what we're getting from surveys. But if people have really one sticking on their mind like that one, we could send it to vote. I think it would
Well,
probably.
it's like March 1st, but that's after public hearing. So you
Oh,
got to keep backing
Backing
up.
up, yeah.
So-
Right, you have to have two. Right, I think you only have to have one public hearing. We had two for the shed because people. Okay, so.
So January and February, we should have public meetings that'll cut
Yes. Okay.
or December. I don't know how.
I think that land one maybe should be looked at because again, I think that might be one to pull. And if it doesn't pass, if the town doesn't agree, but if you look at our zoning map, and the amount of people that came in from out of state that have bought and most of them are even kind of subdividing nicer than we've had. Giving bigger spots, but they could go in.
Then bring us some proposals, some ideas for us to take a look at, and we can go from there.
Okay, so steep slope in other towns and maybe rural zoning in other towns.
Yeah, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to be, all the other zones have to meet all these bars, but if you go way out, you can do whatever you want.
I'm curious to see what our neighbors are doing also, what Claremont, what Sunapee, what other towns around us, so we can be at least
Absolutely.
regionally somewhat consistent.
I just worry about
Why don't we go
the
with
natural,
Vermont?
yeah, the
There's something
rural.
else to
Yeah.
go by that we can look at.
And
We
it's
don't have
part
to
of
reinvent
master,
the wheel.
it's part of master plan for
I
density.
mean, somebody could buy my property, the one that's in current use, and put a snaking road in there and put 25 units in there, and that would not be conducive to the area.
Well, that's another thing that might want to go to vote. We have had a few cluster developments that have been approved by the zoning board. Because cluster developments are allowed via a special exception, so it's an allowed use, it's not a variance. And so really there is no fight. You're gonna lose unless you can prove it's somehow a hazard or a public health issue. Obviously they have to meet, the bar for their water and their septic and the roads, and They have to meet our zoning. However, I don't think people realize that allowing cluster housing in the entire area of rural means that pretty much a house can be put, like for example, that 21 acres up there is allowed to have 42 homes, and that's what they just proposed at the last CBA. And I did, there's people that aren't liking that, and that maybe that density wants to be potentially changed. Potentially. I could pull our cluster housing and just know it has set people. They put it in the rural area because usually you have more land, but then houses can go on very small. You can do numerous houses in very small areas.
But you have to have open land to go
They
with it.
do, absolutely. So the whole 21 acres has to be utilized. The houses, though, are only, and so really the benefit is overall for the environment. It's just, I don't know if people are liking that concept now that it's been coming to a visual of what it is. It's definitely not a Sugarbrook where you're taking mass amounts of land.
Single-family homes.
You're doing it on a little small area and then having a lot of open space for animals and trees and all that stuff. But you could look at it. It's just a thought. I just know people, the public has seen, and there's not much you can do because it's an allowed use.
So,
Gunther, you had a question?
Yes, to follow up on what Christina was mentioning, because our commission, we saw the plot plan of this, and they were duplexes, each one on a 1 acre lot of its own, and just the road that goes into that gravel pit, if you want to call it that, is also the entrance and exit road. It just follows the 20 acres, and there's a little cul-de-sac at the end of the road, and so it sounds like it could, I don't know, it's just, as you mentioned, seems pretty crowded.
They're not on 1 acre. They're on much smaller than 1 acre. He's right. There's duplexes. There's going to be 21 duplexes, which is 42 homes. But there's they're on much smaller, and then you've got that open land behind. And there needs a lot of approval still on this before it comes to you.
So that segues kind of into this list, right?
Pardon me?
This is the zoning list, so it segues into this kind of, because the two cases are on here.
Yes.
One of which is a special exception for cluster development.
That's exactly it.
Which, if they were single-family homes in that same arrangement, would be a special exception. And then the next case is requesting a variance for duplexes, which is not allowed unless you get a variance, so the bar needs to be considerably higher.
Now, the issue with that, Ken, and I have my zoning book, this also, I believe, is a flaw in here. Under cluster development, it says this includes condominiums. So when you pull up the pure definition of condominium, any structure that has more than one single-family dwelling encompassed within the same structure. So in other words, apartment buildings. And it has nothing to do with whether you have condo fees or not. It's just they're called condominiums. So I believe that's why they approved it. They believe that the way cluster is written, the definition, it includes, let me pull it up and roll. This is why you have the zoning book in here, because I think we could tighten up a few of these. Cluster development housing is allowed. So then when you go to definitions, in the back, it approves. So the way that's written, they could put up apartment building and not the duplexes.
Multiple apartment buildings.
Right, because, and again, when you pull up the pure definition of condominium online, that's, and I could pull that up too, because we've had that talked about, and I think that's somewhat of a, sorry, let me get to cluster, which you guys should have all this in the back if you want to double check, but these are areas that we want to make notes. Cluster development. A development is an optional form of a subdivision of single-family dwellings, which may include condominiums. And condominiums are anything but stand-alone They are,
Right, but the word may trumps that whole conversation because that allows the board to say no.
absolutely, but it is allows the board to say yes.
Or yes. But,
Right.
Okay, so the applicant couldn't just hang up and say, you allow condos when he says may.
Absolutely not.
So that's a question.
Right. It's
So
it's under though the cluster development. It insinuates though, because the cluster development's a special exception, and it insinuates the board has a right under special exception to allow condos. I'm making people get a variance for it. I'm making people get a variance,
Yeah.
even though it says that the board could overrule me. Does that make sense?
Get council to weigh in on that.
So let's look at,
So let's go to this list real quick.
Yeah.
So this is the meeting minutes from their zoning board July 20. So on here, what got approved and what didn't? All this says is request, request, request. So these were cases that say request. This isn't the final decisions.
Wait,
So
where
what
did
got
I write
granted-
that?
Yeah, you brought that.
Yeah, this is just
So what got granted and what
the
didn't get
new
granted?
business and continued business.
Oh, that was
No,
supposed to have been
no
on the first seat.
results.
Oh, I must have brought. I apologize. I brought the
This
wrong
was not
thing.
supposed to be out here, Ken.
I apologize.
Well,
I
no,
was supposed
so I had
to.
asked the question 2 months ago of
I
me
don't-
saying
yeah.
we need to get a list
I
of
didn't
what
need to
the
bring
zoning
this. I
board
meant to
did.
bring the planning
Right.
board one.
For instance,
I apologize.
tiny house up on Route 11. That was given a variance. Okay, so that ship had sailed.
These were all
But
approved.
we were asked about, I was asked publicly about it, and I'm like, well, our planning rules don't allow it, but zoning gave it away as a variance. Okay, so that ship has sailed, now we got what we got. So I just asked, in the future, could we get a list of what gets approved by the zoning board, so that we know
Those have all been approved.
that, because we, if this cluster development sat here in front of us right now, Christina would have to say, this got a variance or this didn't, before we could even look at it. You know what I'm
They
saying?
all got approved, and
So regardless of what our rules say or don't say, they gave it away.
well, SEs are allowed. Right? It's
So the special exception
variances.
for the cluster development, not an issue, I get
Yes, allowed with the
that.
oversight.
But the variance, based on what terms did they allow that variance is my question.
A lot of it was based on the wording of that the zoning board is allowed under the request for a cluster development to allow an apartment complex. And they thought that, I will say the duplexes that they showed photos of were actually incredibly nice looking. They don't look like a true they look like cottages that have, but they said if someone's allowed to come in here with an apartment complex, this is the better of two evils.
So regardless of us having that book that sits right there that says planning and zoning ordinance, they can do whatever the hell they want. And we can't say boo.
Because
even
I
hold an
do
order,
think
so-
it's,
We can go to meetings.
I do think,
Yeah.
I do think it's
That's why I've asked to have a joint meeting to say, why are we doing, we give away variances way too easily, in my opinion. This is Ken Merrill's opinion. But in this particular case, right, the ship has sailed. So when that comes in as a cluster, site plan approval for a cluster development, those boxes are already checked and we have no say whatsoever.
well, okay, true with what I do think you could, is ask to have a change of cluster development to not include condominiums.
Well, that would be in the definition, that we'd have to go to a town vote for that. I'm saying,
Yes,
if that case hits here next month,
but then they won't be able to just easily push it through.
no, but if that case, that case
Oh,
is
for
approved.
you, for planning, yes.
If this hits our desk next month,
Yes.
there's not a damn thing we can say about it, even if our rules say you can. 'cause they
Not
gave
if
them a
it's
variance.
all safe, like you have every right to, right, the roads have to be built correct, right.
That's all we can say, is the drainage, the roads.
Yes,
We can do character of the neighborhood
It's a
and shut
permitted
it
use
off.
at that point.
you
It's
know.
done.
Yes.
I don't like that, personally.
We have the ability to change.
I
the
think
Oh, I know, but-
cluster development should be looked at and maybe make it a smaller, it's the only zone it's allowed in is the rural zone. The rural zone is 90% of the town.
But
It
I'm-
might be more.
I mean, that's this particular case.
I know.
I'm saying in general, I think we gotta look at the whole variance, special exception variance structure. Variance bar needs to be like up at the ceiling, you can't reach it type thing to protect
What's another
the overall
variance?
interest of the towns.
What's another variance besides that one? Because again, they didn't even like that I made them ask for a variance.
So the
they
last one,
questioned it.
reduction of front yard setback.
Oh, yeah.
North
Okay.
Main Street, the height of that building, the senior housing.
They got
At
that.
the airport, yeah.
There's another example of one that is in direct conflict with and creates another host of other issues that was granted that should not have been.
That very easily could have been an engineering fix
I know.
to lower
Now
that
that, I
site,
had nothing to
level
do
it out.
with that.
Being a civil engineer, you
Right.
can just move soil around and drop the height and they never would have had an issue.
Exactly.
Absolutely, and Bert Spalding brought that up multiple times. What are you talking about? And they kept saying they can't do it. I agree. That
That's not,
I had
that's
nothing
not
to do.
the board's problem.
Exactly. And that's what happens in the zoning board too. That when the zoning board meets,
well, that's
the guy
what
says, well, I've invested a lot of money, and they take that as a reason. It's not a reason.
Financial, there are 5 rules related to variance, to my knowledge. There's a
there
list
are,
of
and there
5.
still are.
Sat on the
Yes.
zoning board for a long time.
Financial is not one of them.
Financial.
No.
It's got to be a hardship. And to
They-
get to hardship is tremendously hard.
I don't even think Avenue said it was financial. Did they, Maura? Do you
Avenue
remember?
said that it would not be economical for them to
Sink the
build
Well, economical is not
a
financial.
structure that was less than 4
Stories.
4.
No,
Yes.
not that. When they
Because-
just asked them to shrink it 3 feet into the ground. Why did they?
Perhaps we need to schedule, just go to a few.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well,
But
I had asked if we have a joint meeting or something, because this, to me, just bothered me. I mean, we sit here and we try to do a good job, we're gonna rewrite the master plan, or update it,
I think
yet it can be given away, we could do the best job you ever did, and it can be given away in a heartbeat at a different
Well-
zoning board that we can't touch.
It's gonna cause us to come up with different rules to start fixing some of those loopholes or
I think
those
things
those
could be
wide
tightened
open.
up.
Yeah.
Well, there's no reciprocation, I mean, if they have a question, would it be nice if they would ask the planning board's opinion, or what does the ordinance say?
You know what's interesting, which is too bad Ben
Yeah.
Nelson is the chairman. It's too bad that not that they wanted to stay, but it's too right. I do think there's a lot of things that let me broach, I have ZBA next week. I'm gonna broach, and I know that they have ideas on changing of zoning. Now, I will say I don't think it's tightening it up. I
But
think
that's not their purview.
Oh, well, they just thought, no, I know, but I'm just saying they might, like as normal citizens, they might even have things that they would want to require. But I don't think any of them are tightening up the rules. I think they might be I think most of them have been thought of as loosening the rules, from what if I recall.
But there's, this thing right here, in one statement across the front of it, okay, has everything to do with all this.
Well, I know, this is neither here nor there, but that structure at the airport is not being built. Does everyone know that? It did not pass, they had to go to FAA.
I mean,
I know,
I've
that's
sat on this
neither
board a
here
long
nor
time,
there.
And I hear variances go by all the time.
It's coming in much
They
shorter.
just give them away, and
What's the other variance on this one though? Was there another one? I don't,
There's,
oh, the setback. You
the
know,
setback.
yeah, the setback.
Then there's a variance from Article 4 in zoning map for an ADU larger than 750 square feet. Okay.
They were all approved, yes. Pretty much, and I can pull the last year. Since I've been here, I believe there has been 2 variances with no's. And that's 4 years.
Well, we should be working with the zoning board, not against the zoning board.
Absolutely.
So if we could schedule a joint meeting would be wonderful, just so we could discuss some of
I
these
have
issues.
for that.
And their
where we're
thoughts,
going,
yeah.
And then what the greater thought is for some of the changes that we are more likely going to be proposing at next town meeting. So we should be discussing that jointly, so we can be more on the same page, so when we come up with what we want to do for changes,
It's
that
consistent up and down.
it's not us against,
Oh,
planning against
absolutely.
zoning or zoning against planning.
I don't think it will be.
We're in the collective good, and I think this is going to drive, I think you might see some more responses for the survey because of some of these more recent issues. So, hopefully.
And no, I don't think there will be any. Again, a few of the thoughts from the zoning board, if they're lessening, I forget what some of them are, but there's nothing like that they would be against. I will say, I should look through more of the special exceptions.
So, I mean, a good example of this is when we had the Spring Street property
Yes.
public hearing. Okay, we have a public hearing to do this, you know, and it's allowed, we stuck to what our book says. However, if that property had been given a variance for height, setback, anything else that was given away, and we're sitting facing the public trying to respond to that, our hands are tied. All we can say is, the
Absolutely.
zoning board gave it away, and then they're gonna just berate us.
Now, you know Spring Street had no
No, I
variance,
just,
but
as an
yeah,
example,
you're just choosing,
just
absolutely.
going back to the meetings,
Yes.
we had a couple of meetings that, there
Yes.
was some fairly contentious
It was
conversations
contentious.
in that. Because people are hesitant for that kind of development, just like the
Absolutely.
airport or any of these
Yeah.
bigger residential things.
Yes.
Come with opposition because of people are fairly conservative. You know, now they may in turn like the bigger lot size in rural, because that is conservative, they want that more open space. That could be the flip side, but like I said, when we're sitting facing that heat, to explain something like these is
Now, I will say,
pain.
a lot of that heat you're getting, all those humans were at the ZBA too, just, so they're kind of aware, but they do get upset when they come here. They're like, why are we even here if we can't say no here? They do get confused. That they're like, I thought we could say, you know, because they broach things at the ZBA, it's interesting. And I'll either say that's not ZBA oversight, like they will broach, you know, traffic or the road ability or and I go, that's planning board, so I think they think then when I go, or they want to talk about, yeah, it being hidden or obscure or light, and I say that's not this purview.
Going back a number of years when I was on zoning, we would make a number of recommendations to planning. So we were forever saying, we want planning to address this, or look into this, these other things that were recognized or identified as issues under zoning. So
So
that may
they-
not be within their purview, but it's within their purview to at least, when the case comes to planning, that
So-
those things are identified.
So in an example like that, so just like we do here, it's like, okay, you have either a conditional approval list, right? Or come back to another meeting after planning board has weighed in on these items, before it's just not granted.
Yep.
That's really the process, and, you know, yes, it's a 30-day lag, but that really has to happen to answer these things so that we can get this right from both sides. So it's a cohesive conversation. And that's what that meeting needs to be about, I think,
Potentially. The big issue is they can't go to planning
unless they
without-
clear zoning.
Well, right, no, but they can't go to planning with what they go to zoning with. They've got to sink about
No,
another
but if-
couple $100,000.
But if they go to zoning,
Yeah,
like Jim said, if the case gets submitted to zoning, and zoning board has questions that planning should weigh in on,
right.
it should go to the next month, immediately go to the planning board meeting, because we follow,
Just to discuss the
to
questions,
discuss it,
not
and then
the site.
then the answers can
Go
go back
back.
for their next
Oh, well,
conversation.
that
the following
absolutely
month.
can happen.
And
That-
yes, it's gonna delay it, but it's the only way you can do it to be consistent.
Well, that wouldn't delay it that much. It would, zoning board has at times delayed a vote, just like you have. Which is not that big of a hardship, and we're pretty good at, if we delay, everyone's aware of it, and like knows we're not gonna vote on this now, but we're gonna get feedback, and you are always before ZBA. So it's very easy to get, and then go back, and so that wouldn't be that big of a deal to do.
Because
I-
everything ZBA does, ZBA is a quasi, we're quasi judicial, they're quasi legal, right?
Right.
It's precedent setting.
Right.
So once you do it for one, then the next guy comes in, or person comes in and.
Well, it's case by case, but then you're right, there are significant, especially with the tiny house. I don't know how you think, but that tiny house should be talked about. How you get around this, I'm not quite sure.
Mr. Chairman, are we on communications, or where are we at on the?
We just kind of jumped.
Yeah,
I'd like
we're-
to get back on
Oh,
track.
we were at
I know, we're way off track,
administration.
so I'd just like to get us back on track.
Well, this all started with the master plan.
With the master plan,
That's
which-
where we're at,
So,
which is all pertinent information.
Right, we
to
kind
what
of
we're
probably
talking
should
about.
be spending
All this,
30 minutes on the
I was
master.
just going back over what some of the respondents said back in 2012. And
is that?
it said that to limit, you know, what happens in the rural area. So. But I think we've beat that one enough, I think. Any other administration from anybody?
No, nothing that I can, no.
Okay. So, I will open the forum up to public participation for topics within the purview of the planning board. Does anybody like to participate?
I myself will say we have covered my feelings, you know, that you, planning and zoning, you sometimes take the blame because you're secondary, you know, zoning and planning. You sometimes get blamed for things that zoning does. And I think you've all pretty much touched on that, is that the master plan, it needs to be looked at, updated, but also use that when sometimes zoning variances are, you know, to me, to the variance be granted for that large building within 100 yards of the airport runway seems to defy common sense. Sorry, that's just my feeling. It's made no sense to me at all.
Well, it didn't pass FAA, so yeah, you were logical on that feeling.
Yeah. But even having a 3-story building, you know, near an airport.
It's right, it's potentially coming back to that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, if you left that a residential area, single-story buildings, you know, it would be consistent with A, the master plan, and B, with the housing that's in the region. Yeah.
That's actually the last commercial property out there, right? That's the furthest one out.
But that,
Particular lot.
but they
Or industrial, I think it was.
they had to get a variance to do multi-unit senior housing. Ken. Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. That's terrible. But it's true. I didn't mean to. Yeah. It's partial, very small part of it. The lower end, it's probably about 3 acres is B2.
Oh, okay.
After that, it's fully rural. So they're constructing it on the exact opposite end of the B2. So you're allowed to go 100 yards out of your B2, and then you have a free-for-all. On the opposite end, I had them go for a variance. Believe it or not, I hold people's feet to them, you know, to go through the proper, make sure they're not violating anything.
That's what we're here for.
Well, right. So I do think tightening maybe some of these up, and maybe you're right, the joint meeting, just for them to have a thought process of where you're at, maybe the zoning board, get your perspective.
Right, well, the
things.
example Jim gave of when he was on the board and they had questions for planner, that's the process. And it can't be, as we've talked before, it can't be, either this process or that process can't be forced on the time schedule by anybody, just, we gotta get it right.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I do not think ZBA would have any issues with that.
Right. So,
I should broach that with them. That's actually good ideas. And we'll say they did have comments for you on that cluster development to take into consideration that will come to you when they come to you. But maybe I should just, because they haven't come to you yet. They might never come, potentially.
They'll end up coming, but
They have to-
it's already, part of it's already been given away without a chance to discuss it.
Well, there is the septic issue. They have water, but they don't have septic. So they do have to pass state approval for the small lots. They have to have the designed, very small leach fields.
Well, that's bedroom size, so you're gonna, I mean, they're gonna be decent size, so
They're going to be 3 bedrooms.
that's gonna limit how many they can put there. Unless in the center of the cul-de-sac, they turn it into a
No, they're doing.
Yeah, but that can't be used as common land, can it?
Not if it's part of that, it should be on each parcel for each, so
They're
if it's
doing it.
duplexes, that should be on that piece of property.
That's what they're doing.
So if you got two, I mean, the two
Six
bedroom houses,
rooms.
you're gonna have
No, there's
1,500 gallon,
3 bedroom houses each.
3 beds, you got 1,500 gallon tanks.
And they're
Plus
getting
a field, that's gonna
on each little plot.
force those plots up
Potentially, so
way
that's-
beyond what
Is
they-
there town water up there, or do they have wells?
No, there's gonna either be a well, or they're gonna have to pay to extend the water.
Wow, so
Because
they
the
have to-
water ends just before the
These
airport.
little lots are gonna be 75 feet away from you, something.
Wait, no, the water line is across the street.
Water line
They
is
have the
across the
water.
Okay.
Yeah, but they gotta extend that.
They do, they have to pay to have it go up,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
know that, they have that all
Yeah.
set. They do have to get state approval for, and I was told the duplexes are 3 bedrooms each, and they're each gonna share, they're each gonna have their own tank and share a leach field. So it does have to go through that.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
No.
you can't.
Their septic approval will not allow that.
I've seen a location that just had a 9-bedroom multi-unit that shares 1 leach field, own tanks that got approved.
If,
The,
I could see that if it was one owner, and you did it, as the building has it.
Oh,
designed.
right, that was
But
one
if these
owner.
are individual, like the duplex, if one owner had it, maybe, but not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it might not
That's,
come to.
that's gonna make those lots grow, which will reduce density, because you won't be able to have as many, you know, so.
Right.
You still be considered in that, so.
So it might not come back. We'll see.
Okay,
Okay.
But
get that horse over here.
zoning board did ask for a number of things for you to consider, and you'll get that.
Okay.
All right, I think that's, anybody else in the public like to comment? Seeing no one, what's,
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions, Jim? The ayes have it.
Anyone who wants to leave their books on